swing is just the power-oriented version of the hinge, of course. The most difficult thing for people, if they haven't done so, is making sure to stay braced at the bottom. When you start getting into consistent sets of swings, people just start breathing whenever. I believe the second most difficult thing is making sure that the knees don't start traveling forward. The hinge does not change shape when you start swinging that way. One way to ensure that is to keep your upper back engaged. We'll say arms short and straight. So the upper back's engaged, but the arms are relaxed. Rocks on a rope, wiggly worms. We're not going to muscle the swing. Leg, hip, arm last, just like most other power transfer stuff. And today, right now, we're going to look at just a 2-arm overhand swing. We're going to go through a bunch of different swings over the weekend, but right now, just to keep it simple and to keep the hinge consistent, 2-arm overhead swing with light enough weight to not break the foot position that you had the best luck in this morning. Just to address it quickly, when we start getting into swinging really larger weights with double overhand grip, sometimes people will have to widen their stance. How we've adapted that down is with a stacked hand grip. Now you can maneuver your stance into whatever you need, closely replicating your barbell deadlift or a much narrower, powerful hinge. So we'll address all of that stuff, but today, right now, it's going to be 2 hands. Think about all good reps looking the same. If you start feeling one get wiggly, let's assess why it is and we'll address it. So short sets, 5 or 7, moderate weight, and then we'll move on. Good? That's as far as that can go straight. Remember, we're not asking the leg straight. We are telling you the leg straight. Come back up. So that's the way you're going 1, 2. That it'll sort itself out when you start swinging headwinds later. Keep the hinge. Just sit back more. Send your back instead of sending it forward. You're going to like it too. It's going to be faster. So like the game we usually play, don't touch my hand with your knee. Grip where the adaptive pistol grip is much, much safer. It allows much better engagement of the big muscles in your upper back, and it allows a much quicker transition into the rack position. So when we're thinking about using the clean from the ground that we just practiced, the exact same strategy is in play for the swing clean from the hinge that we practiced earlier. And then the exact same strategy is in place when we start putting the weight overhead for the snatch and things like that. Unless you've practiced the kettlebell snatch, we're going to skill work that tomorrow. If you have, then you're welcome to practice it, but the game right now is to not do the fanciest version. It's to get all the pieces assessed of the versions that lead up to that. We're never trying to take the fun out of the process. We're just trying to build the soundest foundation we can before we start stacking things on top of it. So we've done the 2-arm kettlebell swing. The stacked hand kettlebell swing is, of course, if I'm going to clean into this side, the right hand is on the kettlebell. And the way the hands stack is the fingers over the middle knuckle, thumbs seam together, and then everything brings them in tight. It seems like you could just do this, however, but we found that doing it, however, doesn't really get you where you need to go. Crossing the thumbs doesn't make as tight of a seal, and over-grabbing is going to cause a break in your wrist. It's really easy to continue to break an already broken wrist. So make them straight and strong, leave them there. The swing from here is cool because you can narrow the footprint to look more like what your deadlift will look like. It can get really narrow too. The game is to not hit yourself, but just to show you. value to each of those footprints. They all have in common heels on the ground as hard as you can, knees driving out as the butt drives back. A non-nebulous kettlebell swing is the way that it will happen the heaviest. When we see people start to kind of adapt this thing into wherever the weight swings, it really stops being a kettlebell swing. Not really sure what it is at that point, but I know that if the knees drop too far forward, you're definitely not using your ass to swing that way. So that's going to be the purpose, no matter the hand position, is making sure that we're in that same hinge we practiced earlier. Head neutral, heels down, butt back, shin vertical, all that same stuff. So we'll practice the stacked hand swing. Once we've practiced that a little bit, then the swing clean is a shrug and a punch, the same as the regular clean, but it's just going to come from the swing instead of from the floor. And then the stacked hand version is when it gets really, really heavy and you actually need it. This just provides the support to get something else up into that rack position, and then it's done its job. Then it comes out. Either brace it on the back or put it off to the side, depending on what you're going to do next with the weight. Good. Last thing we'll look at is the one-arm swing from the pistol grip or the adapted pistol grip. If you have tight arms, tight upper back, turning the hand in 10, 15 degrees is probably a really good idea, but it's going to let your arm go straight. Only downside we've seen of the true vertical pistol grip is if people tend to anyway, they bend their elbows to the point where it's actually a limiting factor to the power of the swing. So if your arm is bent and you're over engaged here, your arm is going to be tight. Your hips aren't going to fire as fast as they need to. And having had shoulder injuries and having kettlebell lifted for 21 years, I can tell you that my shoulder would already be hot if I had demoed what I just did with a conventional kettlebell lifting position. Anyone that's nodding their heads in here understands exactly how true that is.